Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Season 4, Episode 48. Hello and welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast with me, Mark Taylor. Today I'm joined by Mark Burke, who's the founder and director of Charanga. And I know a lot of you in schools, especially in the UK, will have Charanga as your go-to online resource for all things music. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you very much. Nice to speak to you.
So why don't you start us off giving us a bit of history about the foundation of the company and how the whole thing got going?
Well, actually, Charanga is 20 years old this year, which 20 years in technology is really quite a long time. And when we started, it was quite a different picture than it is today. Of course, it was very much pre-internet, and the early Charanga days were really all about producing CD-ROMs to help people learn and play. And I set the company up. My background, I should say, was I went to the Royal College of Music. I was a musician for many years, but I like to say I kind of retired from rock in '97 and started Charanga. And I started the company with an old school friend, one of my oldest friends that I've known since being very, very young. And we'd been at school together, and he went off to study computer science, and he ended up really specializing in educational technology. So we got together around '97 to look at the possibility initially for looking at guitar learning, actually, which was my instrument. And we produced a CD-ROM called Guitar Coach, which we did on just a couple of 386 computers in a little office in Greenford in West London, or Grimford as we used to say. I shouldn't say that clearly, but it was very much homespun. However, it was pretty good actually. We developed our own technology, and Paul, my fellow founder, he built me an authoring system, so I, as an educator, could build the program myself. Actually, and that kind of ethos has really stuck with us throughout the 20 years. We've always tried to put development in the hands of the music people rather than the technologists. But anyway, that Guitar Coach did really well for us. Actually, there wasn't really much like that around in those days, and really for 5 or 6 years we just produced more and more of these CD-ROM tutors, and everything was going swimmingly. But I think as a company and as two individuals, we really felt we weren't doing anything more than scratch the surface of learning really with that approach. CD-ROMs very, very fixed, whereas as the internet was gathering pace and usage was growing, we felt actually there was an opportunity to really do something that was cloud-based, not a term that was widely used in those days,
I'm sure, yeah.
Tell you. But so in 2004-05, we really stopped that CD-ROM based approach and started to build an online platform, which was tough in the early days because the bandwidth wasn't so good. But really, I suppose we combined all our skills, music, technology, tried to recruit some good people in terms of design and what have you, and educators, and broadened out from this instrumental approach into more of a curriculum approach, particularly for primary, and particularly, I suppose, for beginner instrumental across all instruments. And I suppose from those relatively small early days, things have gone particularly well the last 5 years or so in terms of growth and people using what we do, and it's really quite humbling today to see so many people using it. It's brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic. And I was at a music conference about a year or so ago now, and Charanga was one of the sessions there, and I was sort of taken through how it works and all that sort of thing. And just for those people that haven't necessarily used it, can you sort of take us sort of as a beginner? Who's it for? How can you use it? And what sort of resources are there? Is it all singing? Is it instrumental based? Is it history? Or is it a combination of all of those kind of things?
Sure. Well, I mean, Charanga does have several different programs, but I think the one that is most used and certainly most popular with schools in the UK, this would be something called Charanga Musical School. And the idea with Musical School was to try to provide something for primary teachers, both specialists and non-specialists, perhaps particularly non-specialists, certainly at the beginning, that would help those teachers teach a really kind of lovely, modern, exciting curriculum. So we set about really building almost initially it was a library of resources where teachers could perhaps assemble their own lessons and modules and what have you. So basically they would use it to teach the national curriculum for music as it was. And it would include, though, I think, in equal measure, really, singing, lots of singing, I've got to say, and a lot of kind of music creation tasks around singing, so improvising, composition, but always using song as a starting point almost. So we maybe use songs as a starting point for listening and appraising music, helping teachers build up their children's vocabulary music, but all the time getting them to do practical things in terms of, as I say, improvising and also instrumental work, which, given where we came from originally, the instrumental side of things has always been very close to us. So whenever we're doing any singing, particularly in the scheme of work that we developed, there's always an opportunity for children to play instruments in those songs. So on many occasions we would arrange a song so that it has an instrumental section, and then we provide parts for 24 different instruments, so children can play whatever it is they happen to be learning, or if they're not really learning anything, there's some easier parts for classroom percussion, all differentiated, I should say, as well, lots of different parts for each instrument, so that children have this all-round learning experience. It's the way I suppose schools use it today is really to support almost all the music making they would do in school. So there's a scheme of work so that provides lessons from reception up to the end of year 6, and each year is just fully supported with online resources. So these are really nice interactive resources on screen, using great music, and with lots of things that you can print out as well if you want to. But probably the big thing that teachers say to us is that, alongside the kind of visual and audio element of it, which is really quite captivating for children, there's also some really detailed planning and progression built into all the activities, so that it becomes a really enjoyable thing for teachers to use. And what teachers, I suppose, tell us when we do conduct our regular surveys, sorry about that, everyone, but they do say that actually they enjoy it themselves. They see the children enjoy it, but actually on many there's so many instances people contacting us saying, well, I used to dread teaching music, frankly. I'm not a musician, but now we're all queuing up in school to teach it. So if we achieve nothing else, I think it's great to feel that a generation of teachers actually are maybe approaching music in school in a different way. So I suppose the original question, what is it? Well, it is a bit of all of those things, singing, instrumental work, composition, improvising, but all set out in a lovely kind of step-by-step progressive way. That's this kind of scheme-based approach. But all the time, actually, and this comes through the fact that we built this in a platform, as it were, because we've got a free, what we call a freestyle version of the same thing, so people can dip in and out. They can actually just take all the elements and then combine them with whatever it is they want to do themselves. So there's a very personalised approach possible as well. So some teachers definitely will generally follow the scheme, not veer too much away from that. But other teachers, particularly specialists, more experienced teachers, they'll tend to maybe use the freestyle approach, build their own lessons, combine it with some of their own resources, and produce a much more kind of personalised approach. But I think, the fact that we support both things, I think, is attractive for people, and that's probably one of the reasons for its, relative success. Though we still see things as being relatively early days, actually.
Yes, I mean that's a really interesting thing about the freestyle element, as well as actually having that sort of structured learning plan. Because there's a school that's going to be part of my cluster music project that I'm just setting up here, and one of the head teachers says, "But we use Charanga. How's it going to fit in? And that kind of thing." And
yeah,
and it's perfect that you said that. And I was kind of aware of it anyway. And it's just that kind of all we're trying to do is introduce the idea of rhythm and pitch and singing and percussion, and and it's that kind of we can enhance what you have already, and the more that you have, you can then pick and choose exactly what those resources are, how they can fit in, and how they can support some of the things that we're doing as well. And it's that hand in hand approach, I think, and knowing that the resources are there to support the sorts of things you want to do, which is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ways we've grown things over the years is to work very closely with music hubs, and really, there's over 100 music hubs now have a local Charanga platform, and they actually use the platform and the different programs to support their local schools. So it works very much hand in hand with the services that they would provide. And this, I suppose, there was a time maybe a few years ago when people thought, is this a threat, to say peripatetic teachers going into school? And I always said, well, what we want here is schools wanting to do more music and wanting to do it at a better and better level. And the more articulate children are about their music learning, the more enjoyable it is to teach, frankly.
Yes.
I think now we've come out of the other side. I think a lot of those music hubs and those groups of teachers we work with, who would be, say, more instrumental specialists, they find it a fantastic thing, because I think it builds up demand and knowledge, and an understanding of what it is they bring to it as a specialist. So, yeah, we're always really outward looking. We've always worked in partnership wherever we can. I just think, it's a relatively small space, the music education.
Yes.
Hardly an industry, really. It's a lovely thing. People get into it because they believe in it, I think, and want to make a difference. And so we're always keen to work with anybody who's supportive of that.
And how does the sort of the local sort of music hub platform, how is that different sort of between hubs, or how does that work as opposed to just what would be the traditional platform that you set up originally?
Well, what we've done is to provide hub partners with a local administration system, so they can manage it locally and direct it at local need. This is quite an interesting concept, I think. What we felt was, well, we're not a big company. What we do, I think we do, pretty well, but we don't have that on the ground coverage and knowledge, and nor would we want to try to build that up. There's this massive activity goes on out there. So we thought, well, by working with local partners, they can help to configure it. So, for example, as an example of how it differs from one place to another, there's the facility for music hubs to customize some of the content, so that they can add some of their own materials, some of their own programs that they may run locally. Just as an example, up in Sunderland, we just launched a Sunderland Song Bank, which increasingly is going to include local Sunderland songs, and it fits in with a singing program that the Music Hub is running up there. And it just helps to, give it a local connection. And apart from anything, I think that by building a connection with a local provider like a Music Hub, people have a local source of support. So if they want help with it, okay, we've got some regional trainers who do out there training every day of the week pretty much. But actually, to have a local hub be able to offer support, advice, face to face, much more easily, well, I think that's a good thing for schools, a good thing for the hub, and we're all in it really to try to help kids learn and enjoy music. So I think that hub partnership program has worked really well. I've got to say, some of them make masses of use of the localization. Others don't make so much use of it. They'll just use it to support generally what they do. But the ones that do make detailed use of that customization facility, I think really enjoy doing so and have kind of got into it in a big way, actually.
And I guess the best thing is that, if it's somewhere that schools are going to anyway for their general music lessons, or is a resource bank that they're using, actually to keep going back to the same place and then having that sort of local thing, or a project that's ongoing, it just makes more sense, doesn't it? Because we've all got a million passwords, we've all got a million things we're logging into, and so if I'm doing something musical online, I'm going to go here. It just makes life so much easier for everybody.
I think that's true, isn't it? For us all, as you say, as consumers, almost, it's just the worst thing, isn't it? Having lots of different, login details and lots of different things. So, with that, I've got to say, comes quite a lot of responsibility, because people, if you find that yours is the one thing they want to log into, well, you don't want to. I don't know, stop other people being able to get anything technology driven in front of people. So we try to partner where we can with people to work with other people to open up a breadth of materials.
Of course.
But it does work, and I've got to say, we've invested a huge amount of effort to make it work simply and easily for people, and it's not easy to design things that are actually quite complex in a way and make them simple for people. It takes considerable design skills and expertise to do that. So and I've got to say, even with us, it wasn't always like that. I think in the early years it was pretty unfathomable, I think, some of the things that we're doing for ordinary people. But I think in this last 5 years, since we've kind of, I wouldn't say cracked it, but we've got the level right, I think, and we still invest loads in it today to improve it. We just released a whole new version, really, of Musical School that is just better and easier and nicer.
And I think most people can understand the technology jump between CD-ROM and a cloud-based service, but what most people don't realise often is the fact that, of course, what happens is that every time there's an update from a Windows or Mac or anything like that, there's a whole lot of background stuff that has to be updated just to stay where you are, let alone about improving the sorts of things that you want to be improving as well.
I'm delighted you said that, actually, because I rarely bring that up, because I don't think people do really appreciate that. But you're absolutely right, and the people, colleagues here, technical colleagues, that is the biggest challenge of all, I think. Just as a browser changes, what it does, the way it supports things, you've got to be right on the kind of cutting edge all the time, to making sure it's compatible, backward compatible, works with the latest stuff, and crikey.
And on a in terms of the actual resources you have, how does sort of things like copyright that and copywriting, those sorts of things come in? Because I guess sort of anything which is sort of 100+ years old is absolutely fine and you can use, but especially these days, schools and children, they like all the modern things and that kind of thing. How do you work around that, and how does that work within Charanga?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something that I think if you take yourself seriously as effectively a music publisher as we are, you do have to take great care over copyrights. And what we did was about 5-6 years ago, I think 2011, we sought a kind of strategic partnership with the Music Sales Group, which, for those of you who don't really know too much about music publishing. Music Sales are actually an independent worldwide publisher who control the rights for something like 4/5 of the world's pop music, certainly in Europe. And by getting into this partnership, they actually took a stake in the company. What it did was to open up copyrights use of popular material, as well as some other fantastic contemporary material. But it opened up around 250,000 copyrights all in all. Wow. For us to use. And we knew the value of that, as did they, I have to say, in getting a really quite good deal. But what it's enabled us to do over the last few years is to use authentic material. And, children do know, and actually it's not just children, it's teachers as well. They respond to using musical material, songs, pieces of music that they enjoy listening to and enjoy participating in, if you like. So we use an absolute, probably more than anybody, a massive range of music, all copyright cleared, and we have arrangements with PRS, MCPS, all the collection agencies, and we report on usage. So had to build quite a big digital rights management engine behind our platform. So that in itself it's been quite an undertaking. But the upside is, of course, that you can use great music that people enjoy, so that the experience for a child in a classroom today, they can be looking at Pharrell Williams and happy, and they can be singing that, they can play their instruments in it, and we get sent videos of people tweet videos of the most fantastic classroom experiences with fantastically happy children, and it's just great to see. And okay, if that was all it was, it'd be okay, but it's not. What we've done is to, our education team, just the learning that sits behind it, and the progression that as you go through it, it's all there. So we've tried to combine, serious pedagogy, if you like, using all the time music that children enjoy, and as I say, teachers enjoy as well.
Can you give us just a little bit of an idea of how many schools are actually using Charanga at the moment, both in the UK and also for around the world? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, in the UK, we're just over 7,500 primary schools. We're just approaching 8,000 schools now, and I suppose there's just continued growth. It steps up all the time. Internationally, Charanga is being used in 22 countries now. It's really over the last 18 months, British and American international schools have started using the program. We've just got a couple of people out, just coming back from Bangkok at the moment from the Forbisia conference, and we're in Dubai next month, in Denmark next month. It's really expanded. I think what we've done for the international schools is to combine not just our musical school program from the UK, but actually added our entire instrumental program, which is called Music Professional, to it, and we've also got a whole children's online learning section as well. So it's the international school program is designed to be, well, I think if you work in an international school, you'll be aware that it can be quite isolating, and you haven't got a local music hub down the road and a whole workforce of instrumental teachers waiting to help out. So we've tried to make it a little bit more all-encompassing for an international school. So I'd say, just the way things are moving forward at the moment, we're getting great feedback internationally, and certainly the UK schools, primary and special schools. Actually, special schools is something that's as an audience for what we do has grown a lot over the last 18 months or so. It's great actually, and actually within the way we look at it, really. It's not just really about the number of schools. What we are looking at all the time is the amount people are using it. We can see how many hours people are using it for, how many teachers within a school are starting to use it. So it's often now not just one teacher, it'll be maybe several teachers. So the depth of usage is growing too. And people contact us all the time telling us things they'd like to see in there, and we use that as the way we develop things. So I think we've got it to a point where there's enough usage to drive and support a kind of continued development, if you like. So we've always been releasing new things and developing new things, but we can do that at a pace now, I think, because it's got to a certain size almost. So that's quite exciting in itself, to be honest.
And so for those people that actually haven't used it before or not sort of taken a look through its use, is there a free trial, or how does that sort of thing work?
Absolutely. We don't do any advertising whatsoever. We do everything by word of mouth and free trials. So anybody in the UK can go to charanga.com or their local music hub's Charanga platform. They can go to either and sign up for a free 30-day trial. We don't take any credit card payments or details. We just give you full access to the program, and at the end of that 30 days, if you like it, you can sign up for a license. If it's not for you, then fair enough. We hope you'll look at it again. And it's the same international schools wise. Go to charanga.com, look at the international school page, and sign up for a trial there. All the time, it's full access. Everything, you get access to everything, and just see how you get on with it. Really,
Fantastic. And how does the pricing work? Does it depend on the size of school, or is it just per the platform? Or yes, it is. It's actually not massively straightforward. I'll try and summarize it. The reason it's not straightforward is that because of the arrangements we've got with different music hubs around the country, sometimes they will subsidize the cost for schools because they'll include it in various packages that they run. So it can be free in your local area, i.e. fully subsidized by the music hub, or it could be partially subsidized by the hub, or you could be paying the kind of Charanga direct price. Now in the UK, we certainly through Charanga Direct, it does depend on the size of the school. We found actually that when we had one price, it was definitely excluding smaller schools actually. So we decided to up the price a bit for the bigger schools and reduce the price for the smaller schools. So now if you're up to 100 pupils, it's £120 per year. And that's access for as many teachers as you like, as many children. Between 100 and 300 pupils, it's £195, and then above 300, it's £295. So hopefully, if you look at UK pricing, and compare it to other kind of online platforms, it's inexpensive. I know schools are not awash with funding at the moment, so it probably never have been. But hopefully, it's approachable for what it does. Internationally, I've got to say, because we include other significantly large modules like all the instrumental content that we've got in the children's music world, that is $595 as an international pricing. I mean, I have to say, I think it is great value for money. I mean, we touched on the constant development, both in terms of ideas and the actual technical ongoing upkeep. I think anything which just gives you that much content, that much access, like you said, all the lesson plans, if you're literally starting as a teacher with very little musical experience, that's the kind of key thing that you're really looking forward to. And then, like you say, all the way through to when you've got specialist staff that just needs easy access for things that you want to just grab hold of, and I think it really is great value for money and a really important investment, because no matter where you are on that sort of musical journey within your school, it's got a bit for everybody. That's really the most important thing.
I think that's what people tell us. And it's to give people the necessary detail to help them in a moment of teaching, particularly if they're excuse me, inexperienced music teachers. It is a lot of work, because the more depth you provide, the more support you provide on the screen, the more expensive it is to develop. But I think we've just set a fairly high bar, actually, in the amount of support we want to give people. And so our teachers, that is exactly what they say. So it's really, they can, without wherever they're coming from, they've got a great starting point.
Fantastic. So I think we covered it just a few moments ago, but it's charanga.com is the place to go if you have no sort of initial idea about those things. All the other places, like you said, is your local music hub, and just see if there's an arrangement already in place.
Yeah, that's it. Charanga.com, that will always point you, once you enter your school's postcode, that will point you to the best source of support, and that may be Charanga Direct, or it may be your local hub.
Brilliant. And so if there's anyone listening out there that's using Charanga, please do go to educationonfire.com and just under this podcast episode, leave a comment and just give us some of your experiences and how you use it, because it'll be really interesting for other people who are just sort of getting into the Charanga idea and maybe looking at and having a free trial or just seeing how it works, just to get that sort of teacher perspective as well as just actually the physical idea of working their way through the program. And I think that'll be really supportive for everybody. So yeah, it's educationonfire.com and find this particular episode. If you just type in Mark Burke in the search bar, it will pop up even if you're listening to this a little bit further down the line. So I think that'll be a really great thing for teachers to do. So Mark, thank you very much for your time and taking us through all of that. I think we've got a really good picture about how it works and what you can do with it. And I wish you all the success with even further development.
Well, that's great, Mark. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information of each episode and to get in touch, go to educationonfire.com. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.